Sam Stacey from Innovate UK, if you'd like to come along and make your presentation, please, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There we go. Lots of interesting and encouraging things there, which I think mesh quite well with what I'm going to talk about this morning. So 3 years ago, I took on the Transforming Construction Challenge, which was the implementation of the sector deal for construction. So I was entrusted with £170 million of taxpayers' money to improve the industry. And given these, frankly, quite daunting targets in terms of what we were looking to do with the industry. 3 years down the line, I feel really confident that we can achieve this. What we've done has really proved that this is achievable. And in fact, in terms of productivity, I think we can go considerably beyond this 15% that is mentioned. But things have changed a little bit in the period of transforming construction. Much greater awareness and focus on sustainability. So what we've all got to do, I think, is get serious about the change, realize that in order to achieve the gains we want for all of us in the industry, we have to scale these solutions. The customers are pulling that through. Lots of examples. I mentioned Highways England here. But lots of examples of customers saying, you know, we really want fundamentally different solutions to sustainability. And then in the wider world, it's the same. There's an example of Larry Fink's letter to the chief executives of the $9 trillion worth of shareholder value that they control, saying you've got to focus on ESG these days. But the business opportunities that come with that, I think, are extremely encouraging. This is absolutely not a question of nibbling away further at the tiny little margins that we make in the construction industry. This is about realizing business benefits that we can all gain from. A few years ago, Sir John Egan encouraged us all to learn from productivity in the automotive sector. But the big news really in the automotive sector is there's one company that has gone absolutely out in front in terms of a sustainability agenda, which is Tesla. And they are worth more than any car company and about 5 times the combined share value of the top 10 construction companies in the world. I mean, you know, those sort of statistics really put these things into perspective. And in construction, we do have these enormous opportunities to take waste and labor and energy and all these things out of the equation. And frankly, we need to do it, but we are going to gain from it as an industry. So my message is, this is different now. We have to scale these solutions. We've got the customer demand that's pulling these things through. So that's not a barrier to innovation. In terms of if you commit to this stuff, your return on investment is solid in the sense that the customer pull is there. We've come up with a bunch of tools and techniques and policies and so forth that really show how this can be done. So it's over to the industry now to scale the manufacturing approach, to deploy the digital and data-driven processes that we've already heard a little bit about today. And also, certainly from the client side, to embed whole life value. You know, we all know that there has been a focus, an obsession on minimizing capital cost of what we deliver. And this is to a large extent counterproductive. It's certainly counterproductive for society. What we need to do is move to a value-driven approach whereby we think about what the point of the assets we're building are. And again, in the process of that, this is not about particularly spending up front to save money later. There's an element of that, but I think the whole package of transformation that we're talking about will lead to savings that will help at every stage of the project, both in terms of the capital cost of the project and in terms of the running costs. So So what we've intended to do, and I think achieved with the Transforming Construction Challenge, is to lay the foundations for this change. We've defined what we mean by the value approach and the platform approach. We've proven the platform methods, and when I talk about platforms, I'm talking about product platforms, but as Laura mentioned, I'm talking also about digital platforms. So this sort of standardization approach that can be applied to many areas. And there has been a significant shift in public procurement, absolute commitment from the public sector with their tens of billions of pounds a year spend on construction to procure differently and demand different things from the supply chain. So I'll just flash up this model here to bear in mind when I go through a few examples of what we're talking about, because it all kind of joins together. Define the value, agree the rules for how you're going to achieve that value, work from a kit of parts for buildings, configure those parts into a fully functioning, effective building, provide joined up information, the golden thread, if you will, of information through that whole process, and provide the digital models that enable you to run the assets really efficiently through their life. All that pulled through by this shift in public procurement that I've talked about. So what I mean by the value toolkit or the value approach? Well, we need to have tools that facilitate clients in making really balanced decisions about what they're asking the suppliers, the builders, to deliver. So taking into account the basic return on investment, taking into account the effect of the asset on the natural environment, taking into account the effect of the asset on society and levelling up and such like, and taking into account the effect on the jobs and the well-being of the people who are delivering these assets. So this is something that has been very ably produced by the Construction Innovation Hub, which is part of the Transforming Construction Programme. And this will be handed over to the industry to work with. So the way I envisage that is that a number of organisations, probably Arcadis amongst them, will provide services to support the application of the value toolkit. The other big output, or another big output from the Construction Innovation Hub is the platform rulebook. So this is the product platform approach to construction, taking, in terms of their main focus, medium-sized buildings, schools, hospitals, office blocks, and so forth. Identifying 13, as it happens, key elements in those buildings, defining the interfaces between those elements and the performance expectation around those interfaces. Across our portfolio, we sponsored a number of different companies that have worked on product platform solutions. And the idea is that we increasingly standardize this, make it more open across the spectrum so that you're not dealing with lots of different systems from lots of different companies, but that you can mix and match the different solutions from the different companies. Think of it like a plug and a socket. As long as you know that the plug is going to fit into the socket, then anyone can make the plug, anyone can make the socket. The expectation, I think, at the moment is that this will be forwarded by a construction innovation marketplace, whereby people will have access to assured products that they know are going to fit within this system. Certainly, public procurement is on side with that. The demand is there. And our intention is probably to set up this marketplace to enable access to assured, compatible, scalable products. Then, as I say, we've piloted a lot of these different solutions in all sorts of ways, taking into account lots of digital techniques, IoT techniques, tagging and tracking things through the supply chain. And in the process of this, working with 140-something commercial companies, and through that, developing the confidence, developing the skills in all those people. And effectively, already, we've probably upskilled thousands of people through this process. Skills and skills development is a massive issue for the industry, as we've heard about. But we've really made a start on that. I mean, I think we all know there are just under 3 million people working in this industry. So there's a great number of people that need to be affected. And Lara was mentioning 50% of people needing new skills within the next few years. But again, we've got the examples. We've got people out there who effectively can train the trainers and start propagating all this. So in terms of just a few examples of the portfolio of solutions, active building technology is a massive one. And actually, we sponsored the Active Building Centre developing these techniques. So when I'm talking about clean energy, testing, validation, and configuration of the technology, and a great deal can be done with what already exists. We know that we can make advances, and the Active Building Centre is working on this with heat pumps and other technologies, storage technologies for energy. We've got, with the Active Building Centre, labs that people can go and use and rent space in and get support from the Active Building Centre team in developing these solutions. We worked with a number of external clients to help decarbonise their estate, both public sector and private sector. I mentioned on this slide the Flintshire Homes example, where we've decarbonised a housing estate, working also with Nationwide in Swindon to decarbonise cost-effectively their estate. And finally, on this, the point on this slide here is the ability to trade energy at a micro scale. So I think this will be another game changer for the industry. Until now, you've only been able to trade in megawatt hour packages back into the grid. But shortly, you'll be able to trade back into the grid your energy at kilowatt hour scale, which essentially will enable us to mobilize individual buildings as power stations contributing to the grid, which will be a fantastic step forward, and frankly, probably a necessary step in the adoption of battery electric vehicles as well. In terms of the product platform approach, this is the biggest scale example. There's a topping out ceremony this afternoon, actually, for this building. This is, with Landsec, an office block using the product platform approach and achieving the kind of efficiencies and gains that we are looking for here and that we're targeting. I should say as a proviso, this is the first of its kind. It does mean there's a learning associated with that. So, my message generally is, at this stage, don't focus too much on the outcome metrics. Focus on the leading metrics. Are we really addressing the causes of high labor usage, the causes of high energy usage, the causes of material waste? If we're affecting those, if we're addressing those, then the rest will flow through, and we'll start to get that momentum around the lower overall costs and so forth. Similar approach is being applied at a big scale with homes. So this is the project that we've got going with Barratt and L&Q, applying the kit of parts approach to homes. You see here the crane picking up a roof that's been constructed on the ground, nice and sort of easy access and so forth, and then lifted into place as one piece. And the next step with that is to incorporate a lot of active building technology within that element. A lovely example from the portfolio is what Keltbray are doing with piles. So moving away from these great big lumps of columns of concrete in the ground, hollow, precast piles with sensors so that you always know what's happening in terms of the loads and the movement in those piles. So if you use these piles for a building and then you need to replace the building a few years down the line, you know what you've got in the ground, you know its capacity and so forth. The hollowness enables you to put fluid down through the void and recover heat or indeed cool from the ground. And they've also incorporated low carbon cement within this project. This is a collaboration with the Active Building Centre, again seeing that synergy there in terms of being able to employ that expertise in terms of heat exchange with this heavy civil engineering solution here. And finally, in this set of examples, this project, which is about tagging and tracking materials through the supply process. So one of the great problems, I think, with the industry is we never quite know what's going to turn up when and what condition it's going to be in. So this is one of several, actually, projects that we sponsored that are addressing that issue. So with IoT solutions, tagging and tracking everything, and then also the ability to apply artificial intelligence to work out what the implications of, say, a delay or a defect are as you go through that process. And then the shift in public procurement. So I hope people are getting to a point where they're sick of hearing about the construction playbook, but it is so important. The public sector, the Infrastructure and Projects Authority, Treasury, is mandating that we adopt these approaches, these transformed approaches to construction. So this is, I was an innovation director for many years at Skanska, as it happens, and, always the pushback was, is the client demand going to be there for the solutions we've got? Well, we've got more than client demand here. We've got client mandate. That is terrific. Also, the Transforming Infrastructure Performance Roadmap to 2030 has come out a month or so ago. So this adds more detail to this public procurement, set of public procurement policies around adopting these modern methods. So again, the tools, the guidance are there, and there will be learning involved in adopting these things. But, I would say there's every reason to do it and no excuse not to do it. We've tested these solutions with a number of public sector assets. So the Ties Living Lab project is essentially a portfolio of projects related to the transport sector. Standardized footbridges are what you see in the picture here. Cooling panels, package plant, wiring systems and so forth, other examples from this portfolio of projects with the DFT and Network Rail and some other organisations, well, quite a lot actually, about 25 organisations involved in the Ties Living Lab project. Also working on solutions for hospitals. So on the one hand, we've got the product platform approach, but with regards to this example, it was a question of delving into the details of packing a lot of high-tech stuff into a small space and learning from the space industry in the process of doing that. Again, lots of partners involved in that, piloting these techniques. And another thing, actually, during the life of the transforming construction, hospital procurement, not surprisingly, has risen up the agenda. We were thinking when we started that schools would kind of be the main front runner in terms of solutions for these approaches, but hospitals obviously have come to the fore, with schools following closely behind. And also we have worked on school solutions, generative design applied to schools, and this again, kit parts approach, sustainable solutions, active building technology incorporated within that. So what it all adds up to, I think, is a fantastic collection of solutions and guidance and encouragement for the industry. But again, as I said at the beginning, it's all about scaling now. It's about building those economies of scale. It's about investing in skills, investing in production capability. And incidentally, and again, people are probably aware of this, the money's there for that. Money at the moment is very much available, whether it's from venture capitalists, private equity. We're seeing a massive increase in the availability of funding. But now is the time to get bold about that and to commit to these new techniques. And I think there'll be some tremendous wins for all of us from that. Thank you.